and welcome to the Polyglot Conference Global, October 2020. My name is Amira Mills, and you will be meeting my colleague Elena Borelli. Both of us, we are from King's College London, University of London. We are here today to talk about engaging with racial differences, and we'll be presenting about languages, curriculum, and resources-oriented strategies. Allow me please to start by talking about the importance of linguistic diversity in the classroom. According to the Guide for the Development of Language Education Policies from the Council of Europe in 2007, foreign language education stimulates what we call attitudinal aspects of learning, contributing to a more tolerant and open views among young Europeans in general. Moreover, speakers' awareness of their plurilingualism may lead them to give equal value to each of the varieties they themselves and other speakers use. What is the importance of linguistic diversity in the classroom? Why it is important? Currently, we have seen the current migratory movement, which has made it very clear that adequate linguistic diversity in the classroom is not important, is in fact imperative in European school contexts. The linguistic diversity in the classroom has certainly seen several areas of research. Commons in 2000 suggests that an approach that normalizes the existence of linguistic and cultural diversity, and I'm pleased that he is referring here to both linguistic and culture in the classroom and includes it in teaching, can empower students, something we all try to achieve through our syllabus in the classroom. However, Bailey and Marsden in 2017, Hall and Cook in 2012, have proved that or have mentioned that foreign language education continues to ignore diversity in the classroom and unfortunately fails to incorporate student linguistic resources. Allow me please to define what do we mean exactly by diversity. According to the Cambridge Learner's Dictionary, diversity is a situation in which many different types of things or people are included in something. Another definition I would like to present here is a definition of inclusivity. Again, according to the Cambridge Learner's Dictionary, inclusivity is the quality of trying to include many different types of people here, and here we are talking about people, and treat them all fairly and equally. What do we need to implement inclusivity in the classroom? Inclusivity in a classroom setting requires us to follow a very, very clear pedagogical inclusivity approach. What is pedagogical inclusivity? In 2010, Hawkins has presented us with his notion about pedagogical inclusivity, mentioning that it is the ways in which pedagogy and curricula are designed and delivered to engage students in learning what is meaningful, relevant, important, and accessible to all. According to him, pedagogical inclusivity embraces a view of the individual and individual differences as a source of diversity that can enrich the lives and learning of others. How can we embrace diversity and inclusivity? In order for us to embrace diversity and inclusivity, there need to be active, intentional, and ongoing engagement with differences, combined between individual and group or social differences, and finally, reflect these differences in a purposeful manner. These three steps will direct us to what we call diversity inclusivity. Diversity inclusivity was presented to us in 2012 by Lee et al., quoting Clayton Pedersen et al. In 2019, stating that it will be in the form of the active, intentional, and ongoing engagement with differences in a purposeful manner so as to increase one's diversity-related competencies. Also, through the use of both individual differences, such as personality, learning style, life experience, and also through group or social differences, and that will be in the field of race, ethnicity, gender, country of origin, religion, and other areas. The following questions will help us to translate the theory into practice. First question, how do we ensure the recognition and value diversity in our classroom? How diversity can be represented in the syllabus? How can diversity be an asset for learning? What are the best strategies to seek students' participation? And finally, what are the best resources that we need to have in our classroom? I will leave the floor now for my colleague, Elena, who will be presenting us with some practical examples to address these questions.
Hello everyone, my name is Elena Borelli and I'm Amira's colleague. Unfortunately, you cannot see me because Mac users don't get to have this feature of recording their faces as they present, so you will just have to be happy with my voice. I'm here to present two examples of inclusive activities in the context of the Italian classroom. Italian, like many other Romance languages, presents many cases of gender and color bias. For instance, the plural of masculine and feminine nouns and adjectives is always the masculine plural form, although there is now a conversation on how to make the plural more gender neutral. Often there are no equivalents for nouns like lawyer or surgeon, which typically indicate jobs that were taken up by male individuals. There is no male correspondent to a noun like housewife. Housewife in Italian is casalinga, and you here see il casalingo, so the male form, but obviously this is meant perhaps in jest or provocation. There are idiomatic expressions attributing negative connotation to the color black. The black man in children's stories, having a black day, so having a not so good day, and one that you probably have also in other languages, black sheep. As I mentioned before, the conversation on gender in Italian society is ongoing and indeed very hotly discussed on both sides of the debate. There have been some interesting efforts to produce more inclusive publication and movies, all material that we can use in our language classroom. When it comes to children books, for instance, you can notice here on the left side of the slide and also on the right side two example of children's books. Perché hai due mamme? Why do you have two mothers? That secret, in which the protagonist has two dads. And finally, here at the bottom right of the slide, you can see the Great Book of Families, a children book used in kindergarten or primary school, where children are exposed to all kinds of family, multicolor, multi-ethnic, and so on. We also have several movies by Ferzan Özpetek, a Turkish director but naturalized Italian citizen. Le Fate Ignoranti, The Ignorant Fairies, and Loose Cannons, Mine Vaganti, which presents in a fun way the theme of homosexuality in Italy, and all of those can be used and are very much used in the language classroom. Finally, there's a soap opera called Un Posto al Sole, A Place in the Sun, taking place in Naples, which is very popular in Italy, I have to say, and it tackles various issues, homosexuality, racial issues, and in a way, it is a very inclusive and diverse product. In this slide, I present in a way the two sides of the debate that is ongoing in Italian society. On the right side, you have a picture of a gay pride happening in Italy, and also in small way some progress in gender equality between men and women when it comes to being paid in the workplace. And on the other hand, on the left side, you have some signs indicating a protest on the part of some parents against gender in schools, meaning offering gender neutral names or presenting the books that I have shown before. So we can see that the debate is really ongoing and somewhat hot. Obviously, this debate has had an impact on higher education, as higher education is supposed to resonate what happens in society. And indeed, we all agree that universities need to direct their teaching and learning towards an acknowledgement and celebration of otherness, particularly from a racial, gendered, queer, linguistic, and ethnic perspectives. How does that translate into our practice in the classroom? First of all, it is important for us as educator to develop intercultural competence by raising awareness on the other, and therefore always bring the issue of the other into our narratives. We also need to resist and challenge normative structures by moving away from what's considered normal, because it has only been normal in the past, or things are changing, and we need to present this change to our students. We also need to that end, to create a more inclusive classroom in which everyone feels represented and included. The first case study that I present here concerns a children's book called Ninna Nanna per una pecorella, Lullaby for a Little Sheep. Students often ask for children books to be read and used in the classroom because usually their stories are simple and the storyline is easy to understand, and indeed they can be quite useful when they are suitable. This one is quite famous, and it tells a story of a little sheep who gets lost and finds a wolf who adopts her and becomes her mother, or maybe I should say her parents. And the story really is quite useful in many ways. First of all, it can be used, simple as that, it can be used to teach animal vocabulary because there are quite a few animals there. It also can be used to teach or review the present tense because the story is all in the present tense. And it can be used, and that's a starting point to address gender issues, to teach gender in nouns in Italian, which typically nouns are gendered, and O indicates a masculine and A indicates dominates the feminine. So here we have a lupo. That's a male wolf who encountered the sheep, but later on, when the sheep is adopted, that's a lupa. So we see a shift of vowels here, but also do we see a shift of gender or a transformation? And therefore, this is why the story is, in a way, can be used to raise the gender issue. It is interesting to notice that this story was banned, this book was banned in several cities in Italy. It was included in the 49 forbidden texts by the mayor of Venice. And that's because the story is sexually ambiguous. First it's a wolf, and then it is a she-wolf, and then also how can a wolf, which is a male noun, become mother? So in a way, this story can be used in many ways. It can be used to to teach gender, but also to raise awareness of the debate on gendered nouns in Italy, O versus A, but also to raise awareness on the debate on gender in Italy as such. And we can also use the story as a follow-up activity, as a stimulus to help students to create another children's story with alternative family or racial models, and perhaps with more animal story, playing with the last vowel to make it more gender creative, let's say. The second case study that I present is a little anthology of short stories written by 4 second-generation immigrants from various countries: Gabriella Curuvilla, Ingi Moniabi, Ija Bashego, and Leila Vadia. And the name of the book is Pecore Nere, which means black sheep. In these stories, these 4 ladies, they recount the experience of being Italian, but not really. To speak Italian as native speakers, to have an Italian passport, but yet to be constantly told things like, you speak very well Italian, when were you born, where are you from? Or to be considered not really Italian because of their looks. And also they recount, in a way, their experience of otherness and cultural adaptation. So they can be a very interesting tool to use in the classroom. One also needs to say that Italy is relatively new to immigration. Therefore, movies, books, and cultural products by immigrants are scarcer than in other countries, but they have been increasing notably in the last few years. The short story that I've used successfully in the classroom is called Curry di Pollo, Chicken Curry, and by Laila Vadia. And it's a story of a girl whose parents are Indian and still not adapted to Italian culture and way of living, whereas she, of course, is fully integrated because she was born and grew up there. And one night, she brings an Italian boyfriend home, obviously without telling her parents that's her boyfriend, and begs her mother not to cook her famous Indian curry, but pasta instead. But we'll see that, on the other hand, the boyfriend really wanted to try the curry. So the story is interesting because, first of all, is a reflection on interculturality, food and identity. But whose food is anyway, and how is food representing us? And it's also a reflection of second versus first generation immigrants. And I'm sure it can resonate a lot among our student population. There are several classroom activities that can be used there. For instance, one can do a role play or a theatrical adaptation based on the story, because the story is very, in a way, funny, and the language is very modern. It can also be used to stimulate some creative writing. You can describe a similar experience in which you went to another country and experienced different food. And also, comparing food habits between culture is one way of approaching the issue in a way, fun way, and cultural in the large sense way. So I hope you'll enjoy using these 2 examples of activities in the classroom.
Hello again, and thank you very much, Elena, for a really very interesting and enjoyable presentation. And I'm sure all of us would have some idea of how we can use similar resources that we have in our own languages to address certain issues we would like to bring to our classroom. Right. In here, I am going to talk about classroom activities that we use in our Arabic classrooms. And here we arrange our lesson around a video available on YouTube. And the video is about a spoof gum commercial that promises to cure the disease of Islamophobia in the society. The video is funny because it's first of all, it is in English, so we can use it in any language. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Arabic. And the spoof gum itself, as you're going to see in the next slide, is again in English, and I'm going to present how we use it in our Arabic classrooms at different levels. So our topic would be embracing the difference under the banner of culture and religion, and we design our lesson around the spoof gum. And what is lovely about this is that the content or that sort of lesson could be used at different levels. For beginners, we provide the students with a sort of a set of vocabulary, which is always useful at the beginner's level. And what we try to do is try to encourage them to use the vocabulary in sort of forming simple sentences, and then after that provide them with that gum, the box of the medicine or the spoof gum. Ask them to identify the vocabulary that they have just learned, and see if they can recognize any new word or try to get the gist of some of the new vocabulary which they haven't seen before. And in this way they can produce an Arabic example of the English gum box. For the intermediate level, the activity will be at slightly higher rate, of course, and we are talking here about B1. And here we try to engage the students in suggesting a different medicine, for example. First of all, obviously, they are going to watch the video on YouTube and look at the box of this one in front of us in details. And the next step would be to suggest something similar to address other racial issues in the society. For the advanced level, which we are talking here about C1, B2, C1, what we do is a reflection on the impact of Islamophobia and whether this sarcastic advert and video could indeed address these racial issues in the society. I'm always very much for similar resources because although it's a very simple resources, it still is very useful to conduct very successful lesson at different levels. We have come to the end of our presentation. I hope you have enjoyed listening to the topic. If you would like any further information about what we have presented today, please email myself or my colleague Elena. I could be reached on amira.mills elena@kcl.ac.uk. Elena could be reached on elena.borelli@kcl.ac.uk. Allow me to tell you in Arabic shukran jazilan, which is thank you very much, and مع السلامة, which is goodbye.